Fire you obey me, I don't care you do after this thing that can rest and decay in the street for years. Bonanza fans loved Cartwright, the gentle giant who gave warmth and humor. Dan Blocker behind the scenes, the host person, had a tale, lots of surprises and untold secrets at 66. One son has confirmed a long-held suspicion truth about his father revealed potentially alter fans' beliefs they knew. But before we discuss, understanding revelations is crucial. Early incidents that prompted his son to reveal these long-hidden secrets. Little Joe may have charmed hearts with his charm and beauty. It was host Cartwright, the gentle giant, who won us over with his humility and innocence. Host got gold-hearted. He became more than a character, revered figure of warmth and equal strength. Born Bobby December 10, 1928. Dan Davis Blocker Dan was born in Texas, weighing in at 14 pounds. This historic birth was merely the start of a huge history from the little town of Texas. Dan grew up in Odin, helping at the family grocery store where he carried customer baggage. Absorbed small-town values shaped his compassionate, grounded spirit. Dan started working at 10 with grown men, dragging work in construction, and grain. His strength was extraordinary. Neighbors nicknamed him, well, the big gun. By 12, he reached 6 feet tall and pegged the scale at 200 pounds. Local toughs tried to challenge him, but Dan never lost that battle. After high school, Dan attended in Texas Military Institute. Outstanding in football, his athleticism won him a football SOAS State University scholarship. He was a beast at 64 and 275 pounds. That presence, it was hard to miss. This time a fresh dream appears lit without his knowledge yet. When his college drama club required stagehand to transport big items, they hailed Dan, whose strength made him the obvious decision. Yet what began a modest favor resulted to his first tiny performance in Arsenic and Old Lace. That initial acting taste fascinated him. Dan felt the pleasure offstage and promptly changed his focus, shifting his English major to theater. Despite offers to play, Dan chose professional football to pursue his acting dreams. Brought him to NY, where he pursued Broadway success. Time his persistence and talent paid off him a King Lear role, a key milestone in his journey towards Hollywood. But his life wounded an unexpected twist, was just surviving pork chop around corner. Dan Hill's post-college brutality. Blocker traded textbooks, joined the military in fatigues, U.S. Army soldier ready to serve, but the change was difficult. Standing at above 6 feet 3 inches and 300 lbs, Blocker was huge, and his enormous size presented new issues for the Army. Took a month to discover boots that suit his massive feet. Once outfitted, Blocker discovered far from home in the heart of Korean War. By Christmas 1951, was on the front lines near North Korea for the 179th Combat Infantry Regiment. Sergeant Blocker's power, his resilience, made him powerful, but remembered daily by him and his fellow soldiers fought brutally, sleeping through the freezing cold darkness and the constant threat of Blocker faced. Approximately 7 months of hostile fire marched through trench warfare. Explosion echoes flood the air. The most difficult situations were led by him. War's fierce combat, one chaotic night, and gunfire. Blocker saw one offman in dire need, pinned down, unable to move. Without hesitation, surged ahead into the firestorm, pull his fellow soldier to Safedia. Brave move that left him wounded, but received a Purple Heart emblem of bravery. He wore calm pride. Fierce skirmishes Pork Chop Hill were difficult battleground of the Korean War. Survival seemed like a win. Blocker and his regiment fought on front lines, protecting every inch of land where each hill and valley cost a lot and was difficult work. After months of constant his combat, Blocker was evacuated, body battered, spirit unbroken, sent visit a hospital for scar healing. Battle upon returning home, Dan Blocker carried the memories of war's harshness. He fought the experience honorably. It converted him into an outspoken dislikes war, especially military force-based interventions. Having observed its terrible force, he witnessed violence firsthand and became a passionate peace advocate, criticizing the horrors of war, especially devastating use of napalm. How Dan Blocker acquired fame. After Dan Blocker returned, he was eager to return from Korea and forget the battlefield and focus constructing a family-filled life and goal. He married his college sweetheart, Philadelphia Parker, and they would nurture 4 kids in a loving environment, caring family that anchored him. Though acting after war's chaos wasn't his original plan, a surprise twist for the tall Texan pursuing his doctorate. Blocker moved to see enrollment at UCLA, was quick before his huge frame and distinctive Southern charm captivated Hollywood casting agents. Watch westerns, controlled TV, and Blocker fit the genre perfectly intimidating presence and rugged good appearance made him perfect for Western required rough and tumble. Rolling, he immediately received tiny offers that he started with popular show roles Western series with bit. Roles like Gunsmoke and Colt Point 45 brought in compassion and humor to all 1950s persona. He played blocking resume, grew steadily participating in famous programs like The Rifleman Travels with Gun Maverick, occasionally dabbled television, truly dominated movies. Won his heart in 1957 first big breakthrough his Restless Gun performance audiences responded, and doors opened at more. Opportunities soon after seemed as small, little charming, and silly ranch hand this character allowed it in Simmer Insidium to show his innate humor timing and indicated a charisma would make him famous. Blocker's breakthrough came soon to ultimately earn the position of Cartwright on Bonanza portion would establish his TV career history and star him. Dan Blocker defines Bonanza. Dan Blocker's life changed drastically when landed the Cartwright duty. Popular TV show Bonanza would alter his career, make him famous nationwide host. The kind and tall son from the Cartwright family, Dan became coast-to-coast living room fixture. A gentle giant, Hose might not have been the sharpest Cartwright clan, but more than compensated his large heart and honest kindness. Audiences, especially kids, quickly loved Haas's honesty charm, and his unwavering loyalty his loved ones. For Dan was beyond a persona. He was a manner communicate his principles and views inspired by Stephen Gretz's words, 18th century Quaker missionary urged people to accomplish your best. Dan made this philosophy real. Was this underlying notion of justice and compassion are Dan's nature himself that made Haas's benevolence feel genuine and made him special. Viewers' hearts, though presented as innocent, Dan himself was smart and insightful. Master's degree do theater and loved it. His literature and philosophy display of balancing tenderness with intense protection instinct that reflected his life as a distinguished Korean War vet who knew conflicts cost and worth peace. Dan's massive frame most certainly makes him ideal for the role. He was gentle, though it brought the persona to life. Dan started acting 2 years ago. Participated in one of TV's biggest famous families behind the scenes. He became close friends with Michael Landon and Lauren Green. 3 males had a deep friendship, even beyond acting. Dan was best that guy during Michael Landon's wedding to Lino. Proof of deep link. Though Bonanza kept him busy, Dan occasionally made films appearing with Sinatra. Movies like Lady and Come Blow Your Horn. Concrete. Despite his rising fame, never forgot his small-town roots. O'Donnell, Texas. People back home well admired the quiet, sensitive boy who grew up TV celebrity, providing joy millions. Why Dan Blocker quit Hollywood. Dan Blocker's host Cartwright in Bonanza made him famous, though fame never interested him. Eagerly sought. With his kindness, his intimidating frame made him popular American television figure. But he ambivalent about the attention. Acting was his passion with success, although his subsequent attention everywhere was difficult for him. That embrace, he'd rather focus working softly, but naturally his talent and followers. Adoration made anonymity impossible. Like Dan valued his supporters, the loss of privacy, his enormous presence overwhelmed him. Recognizable, and even a basic outing with family could be chaotic. Fans eagerly surrounded him on one vacation in Yucatan meant for discreet escape. Soon were on display as residents recognized his shouting his Cartwright wherever he went. Unlike several actors, Blocker didn't want maintain the spotlight. In 1970, he and his family traveled to Switzerland, inspired by beautiful Swiss lake country. That he national article about geography fascinated them. Natural beauty around lakes, calm Mayor, the idyllic Blocker and Lugano sceneries, and a peaceful life felt like a dream. Family moved to Switzerland soon. Not only found their new home here peaceful and high-quality international education for them youngsters who thrived in their new. Swirling rumors concerning why Blocker moved abroad. He may have financial issues. Challenges, but he ignored them, clarifying Bonanza's assertions. His decision made him wealthy, nothing to do with money. Desired a life away from fame. Pressures in Switzerland. Bonanza airing in German, establishing a language barrier that let him appreciate his surrounds without being constant. Acknowledged Switzerland's countryside. Dan, the peace he wanted despite his prosperity, kept him modest, grounded, and aware of privileges. Career gave him several opportunities. Concern about those struggled, particularly underpaid teachers whom he admired greatly. With reflection, he even considered his career that acknowledged his irony. I sold wealth, said, oh, he occasionally seeks money. Considered returning toe-taking his Cartwright fame tough to return to quieter, simpler life. Dan Blocker's Fight Racism, 1960s cast and crew of Bonanza traveled widely. Filming sites one expedition took them southern U.S. region still. Caught in the painful problem with race segregation during civil rights movement, demanded change prejudice persisted in many hotel, restaurant, theater rejected to serve blacks. During one of these trips, the Bonanza crew arrived at model only to be told there no blacks would join not allowed to stay since establishment discrimination policies shocked the team. Shocked by this obvious act, Dan Blocker, notorious for injustice gentle spirit, stepped forth with iron resolution. Without hesitating, he sighed if the hotel declined to accommodate everyone, then no cast member crew would stay. Didn't Dan see a threat? They showed promise then. His fairness extended beyond his screen roles, where a portion of Dan Blocker's dedication to justice was as high as his tangible presence beneath his gentle behavior was founded on hatred for any type of bullying or oppression. 1964 interview stated, "I loathe a bully worse than anything. I'm large that I dislike fighting. But a 180 you can beat a 130 pounds guy. Bet you I'll handle the huge speedy." Dan knew the power of his size and strength, but saw responsibility and gift designed to guard others from intimidate. His brave stand against racism on the job. Bonanza reveals his character by rejecting. He showed injustice activities can challenge the current food situation in Dan Blocker passion. Dan Blocker wasn't merely known for his tall stature and kindness. His nature was also famous. His huge appetite personality, those who knew him reveled at the sheer much food he could store every morning. With a feast would spin most people's heads. 2 loaves of bread and 2 dozen eggs, soft milk to start the day. He piled his plate as the hours passed, extra bread and meat potatoes finished servings, others left startled. Dan's appetite was everywhere. Famous Tex roots. Dan liked hearty down-home meals. One of his favorite treats was entire grilled gammon. He could easily devour alone. He wasn't one for fruits and veggies, although he had a renowned sweet tooth, especially when love came to cakes, pies, and cookies. For a satisfying supper at length, Dan started a business. Ponderosa Steakhouse co-owner chain honoring the Cartwright family ranch on Bonanza. Restaurant served just the generous, pleasing fare Dan adored. He enjoyed the benefit of co-ownership. Any Ponderosa restaurant for free location, but enjoyed these benefits. Dan knew keeping up with Haas's favorite image needed some work. Discipline Hollywood's demands. He had to combine his affection for food with show business realities. He cycled strict diets to rigorous workout to keep in shape for his role, but the temptation his favorite foods were hard to find. To oppose his emotions relation between food and abundance. Meals on set. His weight would regularly change. Subsequent Bonanza seasons, ups and downs, strained his body, struggled with yo-yoing dieting, ultimately required padding to keep the signature bigger-than-life Dan's screen appearance still legendary. Hunger never subsided. Cast and crew would marvel at him, faced each meal with determination, excitement, without cameras. So Dan's food obsession persisted, leaving others amazed as heat anyone in the room without regular surgeries. Sweating dramatic turn in the early 1970s as Vietnam War caused political unrest. The U.S. Dan Blocker, a beloved performer, who played host Cartwright on Bonanza, life-altering decision. His family moved to tranquil countryside Switzerland, seeking tranquility even distant from disturbance. Blocker stuck with Bonanza at strong. He frequently returned, too committed to westernization. Classic to life for fans. As the show's final seasons approached, Blocker's health began to wane. A gallstone diagnosis was made. That situation still common, needed surgery. Blocker should have been standard practice first. Remove his gallbladder. Appeared the surge was successful, seemed better, and his loved ones one sighed in relief, but unfortunate turn of events. Blocker met an unexpected pulmonary embolism. This sudden blood clot killed. The loss of Dan Blocker was shocking to sorrow via his family and friends. Fans worldwide. News of his death shook entertainment world. Stars and fans remembering a guy known for more than boosting physicality and charm personality, but for his generosity and warmth. Tributes flooded in for him. TV contribution and recalling his warmth and humor become famous as Jose Mid-Morning. A bizarre story began. A tale that would captivate imaginations for decades was Dan Blocker narrative concealed in a piano box almost as big as the man himself at 300 plus lbs. Blocker recognized for his massive bulk. Soon, rumors Spread that a piano box was the culprit-only burial vessel large enough. The story took off, merging fact and fiction into myth that some thought fit for Blocker-sized star, but truth much less dramatic. Dan Blocker buried in a typical Cascatwoodland cemetery. Santa Monica piano box story in California. Colorful Blocker legend, unique presence and love for him. Yet it's just legend, entertaining, and curiously for some comforting. The story is untrue. Bonanza's the untimely death of a loved one. Actor like Dan Blocker, especially a series' central character, leaves vacant area that never was filled after Dan died on May 13th. The shock spread beyond him in 1972. Family and friends touching fans, colleagues like those who worked in Bonanza. His absence washes Cartwright. Dan was profound. The Cartwright family core exhibiting warmth and humor engaged audiences. His larger-than-kind spirit and life had made commenting on the show, and his passing left a gap nobody could fill. The final season begins. Intimidating the cast and crew moving is challenging. Forward sans Blocker's personality, who was central to the show, and his lost many concepts were challenged. Considered to address his absence includes a special episode for him, memories, or slowly writing out of the storyline. But the producers dared to acknowledge Dan dies in the story. This method gave the cast and let the audience grieve, paying Blocker and allowing them to say goodbye to Cartwright. Writing the first episode after Dan was killed by Michael Landon, Little Joe. Landon chose a subtle, strong approach, letting Haas's silence suggests absence. Silent sentiment shared by the Cartwright. The original plot had family Haas's lovely journey, but after Dan died, Landon revised it, capturing family loss, grief member without explaining Steph. He thought silence could convey depth, loss beyond words. On stage, Dan's absence was felt. Filming the first episode without him was painful and healing for cast and crew, who told tales, recollections of the man who brought so much their lives with excitement and warmth. Cartwright's usual setting, family dining room with laughs, camaraderie, was once common. New bittersweet permeated everywhere. Set seemed to have Dan's marked, though the crew continued. His every scene felt empty. Host Bonanza never was the same. The show's popularity remained slow deteriorating, and Dan dying, except Sarah NBC shifted the show from autumn prime Sunday night time till Tuesday nighttime competition position with Drew's ABC Movie of the Week. Viewers with hits like Brian's Song and Ben Hara ratings declined despite cast's best efforts to keep the early magic lives on. Seasons were hard to reclaim. Final season, Bonanza tried to recover its momentum without Haas's heart. Funny, the show felt different. Viewers lost interest after 14 seasons. NBC finally canceled series in 1973, introducing Cartwright family history ending even during the show's hated. And Blocker understood their day would come. He was honest in interviews, accepting the eventual end, that the show's success would fail eternally. With excellent foresight, projected that the sheer amount episodes and rising production costs might make the series too heavy, an extra load for the network. In Dan Blocker's pass ended milestone splitting Bonanza forever. The HW years and the year without him. While Bonanza become a timeless classic people enjoyed decades after the influence, Dan's absence was cleared at heart and soul of the show. With him on, Bonanza lost much warmth that made it special. Dan Blocking's son confirms our suspicions. Growing up with host famous figure Cartwright like his father Dirk Blocker, influenced by Dan Blocker's larger-than-life and eventually by his unexpected death at 43. Mark wasn't alone in this devastating loss. Dirk's personal life was affected. About his future path, career. Despite entering the world acting like his father, Dirk held a longing for quieter life, one hidden from the spotlight, has always surrounding Dan Blocker. Younger Blocker contemplated how seeing his father's fame influenced him away from stardom. Had grown up watching Dan unable to gossamer without fans, him seeking a connection for the appeal of character, a role that let him act sans relentless spotlight was far more appealing. The tragic turn took May 13, 1972. Dan Blocker, known for talent but his kindness and humor, passed away routinely problems with gallbladder surgery, pulmonary embolism, and died at Tanglewood's Daniel Freeman Hospital. Dirk was shaken by the suddenness, but his heart a tremendous loss. It drove him to seek comfort by becoming lost in job and daily life. He maintained composure, anguish over losing his father, his greatest mentor, and Dirk's longtime support. Comprehension of his father grew appreciated its tremendous complexity. Dan Blocker was more than a renowned actor and man with a passion for justice, dedication, political issues, and generosity. Dirk was inspired by his father's life outlook, kept keeping his humor throughout tough times and upheld his principles. Thanks for watching. Liked it? Like, subscribe, comment, turn on post alerts to stay upgraded with new content.